In 1975, I was a first-year student here at Dallas Seminary, and I was staying at Stearns Hall. There was a field experience that Tom Constable came up with called $4 and a Toothbrush. And the idea was for students to go downtown Dallas and live by their wits, learn what it was like to be a displaced person or a homeless person. And lo and behold, another student was willing to go with me. His name was Peter Gentry. And so we got together and walked down Gaston Avenue to downtown. We were living, as I said, in Stearns Hall together. I remember there was 600 male students at that time, all dressed in suits, but on that day we were dressed in flannel type shirts, and we got ready for an adventure. And as you will see, it became quite an adventure. Just before my last year at DTS, I got married, and my wife Paula began to work with the registrar here at Davidson. That turned out to be quite an involved job for her, and they told her that her talents could be used elsewhere, and so she became a receptionist here at Davidson Hall and eventually worked for the Kindred Spirit. Peter and I walked about 1.5 miles downtown, and we wandered around for a number of hours until it was probably close to midnight. And it was fairly cold. It was in October, actually 44 years ago. We decided that we would just simply lay down under some hedges here near the Masonic Temple in downtown Dallas. And as we were looking up at the sky, Peter said, I think we ought to just go through some of the Bible and mention some of the verses we know. So we started out in the Old Testament. I was just a Christian for maybe 3 years through Campus Crusade. I got through Genesis and maybe to Exodus with a few verses, but Peter was from a very strong Christian family, a Brethren background, and Peter just kept going, remembering many of the verses throughout the scripture, and that was a telling experience for me. And I determined from that point that I would try to remember 2 verses from each book in the Bible. I think that's 132 verses, and I owe it all to Peter's kind of challenge to me to be able to walk my way through the scriptures. Peter and I were very cold, and we were kind of huddled together at the Masonic Temple there under the hedge. Decided this wouldn't work, and so we tried to find the warmest place that we could think of. We went to the Greyhound bus station, but then we realized probably 2, 3 in the morning that the seats were too hard to sit on, and so we had fitful sleep through the entire night. Then I remember at 5:30, we looked up when we saw someone who was doing evangelism was tracking in this Greyhound bus station. We were very impressed. We ran to him. By now, our money was about gone, and all we had left was our toothbrush. And so we asked him what he was doing, and he was very gracious to take us out and to give us a breakfast. After leaving from the Greyhound bus station, it was a Saturday, and it was during the State Fair of Texas, as you see here. And Peter and I just came out and spent the day at an evangelistic booth. And I remember the booth had a picture of the skyline of Dallas, and then there were graves with people coming out of the graves kind of flying up on the background of that skyline. And as a result, people would stop and say, what's going on with this picture? And we would use that as a bridge to share the gospel. And that's just what I'm doing today at another evangelistic booth, where a number of us are sharing the gospel with many of these fairgoers. After spending the afternoon in evangelism at the State Fair of Texas, we walked back downtown, and because of our bad experiences at the Masonic Temple, we decided that we would go to the Union Gospel Mission here near the Park Avenue. And as we entered into the Union Gospel Mission, the supervisor asked us who we were, and we said we were Dallas Seminary students that were doing this field experience, and he really didn't believe us. And so I remember being grilled about my salvation for about 20 minutes. And if I wasn't assured of my salvation before that, I certainly was after my experience with that supervisor. After we finished the interview, we went inside and they had us take a bath. I remember we had to give them our clothes, and they gave me about a 38-inch Bermuda shorts and you took a shower. And then Peter and I went upstairs. There's about 75 men, all in bunk beds on the top, and I don't think we got much sleep because people were coughing and making noise. The lights were on. At 6 a.m. the next morning, we were back on the street and getting ready for our Sunday. And as a result, we decided to go to First Baptist Church, which is my next spot on this journey. When we came downtown, we were on foot for all 3 days. And I believe that if we were to do it today, we would have been on one of these scooters. Peter and I had never heard Dr. W.A. Criswell, one of the prince of the expositors within the Southern Baptists, preach before, and so we decided we would come to church here at the historic First Baptist Church. We were thinking about walking into this entryway, but we saw everyone was dressed in coat and tie, and frankly we felt very much out of place. And so we turned around, came out and had our own little service here on the sidewalk before we started back to Dallas to end our 3 days of a $4 and a toothbrush. After our 3-day adventure downtown, obviously we were very tired, and so Peter decided that he would bed down in the library, and I have a feeling he found a little corner, went to sleep, and he was sleeping so soundly, I guess it was hard to wake him up, so they called a policewoman who told this vagrant to get out of the library.